Today I'm going to talk about why learning a foreign language is so important and why it should be a high school requirement to graduate. I live in California, and it is required for you to take 2 years of a foreign language in high school. And I was someone who really didn't want to take a second language. I hated the idea of it. I thought that it would be a colossal waste of my time and that I wasn't really going to get anything out of it. But I was proved wrong. The first time I walked into my Spanish class, I fell in love with it. I loved being so involved in another culture, and I loved learning how to communicate with other people. I ended up taking the class for a full 4 years. And what I learned was that learning a second language has several benefits, such as knowing how to speak with someone who doesn't speak English, learning about another culture, looking more desirable on a job application, and it's even beneficial for other academic subjects. So as I said, the first benefit of a foreign language being a requirement in high school is being able to communicate with someone who doesn't speak English. The U.S. Census of 2011 had information from over 290 million people 5 years and over. And from those, they discovered that 60 million of them spoke a different language than English at home. That's about 20% of those people who don't speak English as a first language. So taking a class where we can learn how to communicate with some of those people is important, because if we don't, we're going to alienate that 20% of our population. So now, in this required course, you probably aren't going to become fluent, and that's not really the idea. The idea in these classes is to learn the basics. So let's imagine that you encounter someone on the street who looks like they're in need of help. You approach them and ask if you can help, but they respond in a language that's not English. You desperately want to help them, but you have no idea what they're saying. So you and this person, back and forth, desperately use hand gestures and facial expressions to figure out what the other is saying. And then you might be able to help them, you might not. So now imagine the situation if you speak a little bit of their language. You would be able to tell them, I'm not very familiar with your language, I speak very little of it, but I would like to help. This makes the situation easier. Another benefit is that when you take a foreign language class, you also learn about that culture. You learn about common courtesies, traditions, and cuisine, and how that culture lives. For instance, in a Spanish class, besides learning the language, you also learn about food from Spanish-speaking countries, some different holidays they may celebrate. You also learn about how they address one another, in which ways they're polite when speaking with certain different cultures. This is important because it helps you become aware that there are other cultures than yours, and there's more than one way of doing things. And because if you meet someone who celebrates a different holiday, or has a different belief, or eats a different type of food, you may know a little bit about that and be able to have a conversation with that person, further unalienating them from that population. This is so important to introduce them to our high school students, and it will help them become aware of more than just themselves. They'll be able to become aware of things that are around them as well. It will teach them to be aware and accepting of other cultures. Another great reason to require a foreign language is because it will give you an edge while looking for a job. A part of high school is to be preparing students for their futures. Hopefully, a part of that future is applying for a job. Davis Skorton and Glenn Altshuler from Forbes magazine wrote that we need diplomats, intelligence, and foreign policy experts, politicians, military leaders, business leaders, scientists, etc., who are proficient in languages other than English. This proves that there is a need for people to know another language. These job fields right now are struggling because there aren't enough people who speak both English and a second language. And apparently most students realize this. An article in Adolescence Journal said that 52% of students who took a language said they did so for career advantages. So students know that learning a second language will benefit them career-wise. Say for instance you go to apply for a job, and there's 2 people going for this job. One speaks English and Spanish, one only speaks English. The person speaking 2 languages is more likely to get hired because they have an edge over you. So the final benefit of having a foreign language be a requirement is that it helps the student's overall education. An article from U.S. News says that College Board surveys have shown that for each year of a foreign language study, average SAT scores in both verbal and math sections increase significantly. So this shows that learning a second language helps you improve in other academic pursuits. Learning a second language requires you to learn about grammar, and it takes apart grammar in a way a regular English or literature class won't do. So now when you're writing an essay or reading a book, you'll be able to use proper grammar. it makes you think critically, it makes you analyze every single thing that you're reading. And because it makes you do that, you better understand it in the long run. It helps your comprehension. So this is what helps students in their other classes. So we've learned that learning a foreign language clearly has several benefits. It allows you to communicate with others, teaches you about another culture, gives you an edge in looking for a job, and helps you with other classes. It overall helps people learn how to be around other people who are different from them. This is so important for our students to learn. If we don't teach them how to be around other cultures, around other people who speak different languages, then they're not going to strive. They're only going to be able to talk to people who are just like them. They won't be able to talk to people who are different than them. This is also important when you want to go out and evangelize. It's hard to evangelize to somebody who speaks a different language if you don't know anything about that language or about that culture's customs, religion, or beliefs. So these are the reasons why I believe that taking a foreign language should be a requirement in high school.